I'm Tamara, and we're out here doing a photo shoot. The idea is to do a jumper in the sky. It's one of the shots I love to do. It's a lot of fun with a very blue sky and shooting from different angles. Today we have a gray sky, and I want to try something very different. I don't even know exactly how it's going to work, but we're going to play with it, which is simply laying flat on the ground, trying to open up the lens as wide a focal length as I have, and doing some springboarding, jumping over, having my little model jump over the camera, and shooting with a narrow aperture, so I have a lot of reach, like an f5.6 or so. I'm gonna have to bump up my ISO to be able to achieve that, and a fast shutter speed, which I'll be shooting at probably something like 1/1600th. And I'll be shooting with an autofocus continuous mode, so I can catch the action as it goes. Most likely I'll be alternating between a burst mode and a single shot mode based on what I see that I'm getting. And I know that I can actually take the shot later, pull it into ON1, and give myself a bluer sky. So I don't have to worry too much about that. I can just be here experimenting and having fun. I'm loving the shots we're getting. We've got a nice wide jump. He's doing a great job looking down, and he's doing a job just flanking and being strong. But I need to switch to the D5 because I want more shots in that upper arc. I want a faster burst speed, and the D5 gives me something like 900 frames per second. So I'm gonna switch to that, make sure I cue in the same settings, and we're gonna do it again. So one thing I've got to consider when I'm setting my focus is an autofocus continuous mode can work, but it doesn't catch every time. So the easier method is actually to shoot with an extended field of focus. Go ahead and guesstimate the distance between something where I can set my focus on, like for instance this light, at the lower part of the light is about as far as he's going to be from the lens when he jumps. And then I can switch to a manual focus knowing that my settings are pretty dialed in because I'm not shooting with a shallow depth of field. And you're going to go across my lens, correct? Here we go. Yeah, that was it! So this was a matter of trying and trying again. We moved to one last spot where he was higher up, jumping over me, and then higher up, and I was tilting and he was jumping up and forward, and we got the shots that we love. So luckily I was able to finally get the shot I was going for by doing it again and again and adjusting angles and lighting. But what I couldn't do was adjust that gray sky. So I'm going to jump into ON1 Photo RAW, make a selection of an image I shot at a different time of a beach with this beautiful, brilliant blue sky. And I'm going to do a couple things. First, I'm going to go ahead and click the Move or Transform tool. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And I'm simply going to position this image over the other one so I know what I'm going to be revealing as I go. I don't need that beach below, this whole beach side. I don't need that cloud below. I just want this top part to be all blue. And it's okay, because of the type of image it is, that if I stretch it and adjust it a little bit. So I'm going to kind of move to that, which I like. I'll click the Apply button. And the next thing I do is I pull the final image that I work towards up to the top. Next, what I'll do is grab the masking brush tool, adjust the size of it, probably to somewhere around 900, 1000. Yep, that's right. Make sure I select the perfect brush tool, which is just a brilliant tool, I think. Hit the Command key and just start brushing. It's really as simple and as straightforward as that because of the capabilities here, which by the way makes my life so much easier than things I've done in the past. I'm probably going to be a little more deliberate when I zoom in to around his face, simply because there's white in his eyes and his teeth, and that's part of what I sampled. So I'm going to come in here to about, 250 or so, click the Command key and then just kind of bring it around. And that works really well. So if I zoom out, hey, we have a kid in the sky. That worked. That's great. But I want to make a few more adjustments. And one of the adjustments I want to make, nope, I'm zooming in, is with the Perfect Brush Refine Tool combo. So the Refine tool, actually I'm leaving the Perfect Brush. I'm moving to the Refine tool. And this brush, what it does is basically it gets rid of all these just little tiny irritating edges and just cleans them all up just like that. It's kind of amazing. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can better see it. Let's say that this part of the image is not used, and this part of the image we're going to use it on. And just to see a comparison of how nicely this tool works, we'll have a little bit of a before and after right here. You can see right away this is the before and this is the after. Look how clean these edges are and look how scraggly these edges are. I would just do the whole thing to clean it up. And suddenly it's all just fixed, just like that. And I can take this tool and move it all the way around and just clean things up. I love it when you just see it kind of pop in. Like, yep, that's working. And so I'm going to do that up and down this image. I'm not going to do all that right now because it'd take me a few minutes just to make sure I've got it all covered. But basically I'll do that up and around the whole image. But one thing I've noticed is that when I'm using this tool, the parts here, these little edges, it can work sometimes pretty well. Let me make that a little smaller and kind of do that. Like, it'll work, but you see how, if I go over and over again, it may work perfectly. But when I zoom really close in, you see how we still have these little edges? The best tool I find for that is the chisel tool. Yep, I'm about 1 is the number I'm going to select here. And this is just being a little bit more precise to knock that out. You see how I'm knocking all that out? It just kind of takes off. I'm chiseling away at the edges. That's basically what I'm doing. And I'm getting rid of all these little things, this haloing effect. And I can do it up here on this branch really clearly. And while I'm at it, I could also switch to the blur tool, the blur mask tool, and even do a chiseling but softer. So instead of it being kind of a hard tool, I would lower the opacity here, or the size here, there, and then zoom in and just softly get rid of these edges. And look how beautifully that works, to not only get rid of those edges, but to have this kind of really soft look that for me works very well with this image, because I don't really want these scraggly branches to be too sharp and pointy. So as I just keep going, I'm able to adjust exactly to what I want, get rid of this haloing effect, make it look more natural and a little more flattering to my subject, because this is so much softer. See right there, just to have a very clear before and after of using this tool. So I'm going to go ahead and do that just up and down the image. It'll probably take me about 3 to 4 minutes to be done with that. But the other thing I'm going to do is look at that sky and think, how do I make that a little more realistic? So I've selected this layer. I'm going to jump into the Develop tool, and I'm going to make the sky look more like what I see when I look outside at the sky and I'm taking this sort of photograph. So I'm just going to brighten it and lower the opacity so it looks a little closer to what I think a sky would look like on a day like that. I'm going to go back into layers where that effect will take place, and I'll be able to see right away the difference. To me, this sky looks so much more realistic and more a reflection of what would happen on that day. The next thing and the last thing I'm going to do here is select these 2 layers, go into a new stamped layer, which basically creates an additional layer, but it's really the composite of the 2 images together, which works fantastically, because then I can take the composite and jump into Develop or Effects if I want to now treat this final image as a standalone image. But otherwise, at this point, I'm done.